Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the second session of 2 on our Iqra TV questions and answers. I am your host for the remaining 20 minutes or so, Amjad Muhammad, and the phone number to ring, which our dear sister phone just before the break, is 01274 214 299. That's 01274 214 299. That's the number to call, and you will get through directly here into the studio so we can answer your queries and your questions. If you wish to email instead, then the email address is qanda@iqra.tv. That's QANDA@iqra.tv. So please do get your emails across to us and phone in for what remains of about 20 minutes or so we can deal with your queries. We were also, in the meantime, whilst waiting for your calls, going through some of the questions that have come through on my forum, the Darul Iftar forum that we have, Markazul Iftar wal Qadha, both on the Telegram for chaps and for chapesses. So we dealt with some questions previously, and we're going to look at some other questions now. Where were we? So the next question is, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mufsab, I hope you and your family are well. I'm looking for a new apartment, and a week ago I got the chance to look inside of this apartment. This week the company who managed the apartment gave me then a positive response that I can rent the apartment, but I'd already fixed a date with another department, which is much better. I agreed to the first apartment that they can send me the contract, but I didn't sign anything until now. The next day, I went to the other apartment and said to that manager that I have a positive response from one apartment, but I would like to have their apartment. I must send some papers to both of the companies, which they need, where my signature is on it. I said to both that I will do it tonight. Is it permissible for me to take the second apartment if I get the chance, or should I take the first apartment? The papers which I send are only for case if I cannot afford the money and not the contract itself. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brother. Ameen. Jazakumullah khairan for your kind words and your du'as. May Allah give you likewise. If you have not signed a contract, then there is nothing, ijab and qabul has not been done. Then there is nothing binding. Remember, this ijab and qabul does not need to be in writing. Ijab means that somebody makes an offer to you. Qabul means that you accept that offer. So if the price has been discussed, you've seen the item, for in this case, let's just say the chap says to you, you're paying £500 a month. You look at the apartment and you like the apartment and you say, yes, I accept. If you have done that, then the contract is binding. Whether this is written up or not is irrelevant. The writing up is just a confirmation of what's already been agreed. If, on the other hand, you've had a look around, you've said, oh, I like this place, it's not bad, it's quite nice, I may buy it, and he's not offered it to you, or you've not offered to accept and you've not offered to take it and he has accepted it, so basically ijab and qabul has not taken place, then there is no contract, there's nothing that's done. But if that is done with whichever apartment, whether it's apartment 1 or apartment 2, then the contract has been finalized, because all the contract requires is the product of sale, which is the mabi, the thaman, which is the price, and offer and acceptance. Offer can be from either sides, either the person whose apartment is, or the person who's got the money who's seeking an apartment. And the acceptance is via the other party. If that has been done in the case of the first apartment, then even though you've not signed a contract, then that is done, that's a done deal. And you should not even have looked at the second apartment, or if you had the chance, you should have said, look, I've already accepted an apartment, it's done. But it seems by your message and by your actions that you had not accepted the first apartment. Otherwise, why it would be illogical for you to look at a second apartment. Because once you've accepted it, it's done. And it was more a case of, yes, I like your apartment, and send me a contract, and so it was a case of saying, send the contract and then I will accept. So whichever way it is, you know the facts, you were there, then judge that accordingly. It's, I'm really glad that the brother asked this question, because when it comes to, buying and selling, we don't really follow Sharia at all. You know, somebody makes a promise, somebody says, I'm going to buy your house. So they say, fine, and you say, I'm selling it for 150,000. They say, yep, I accept. They do that by words. And then 6 months down the road, you put your house up, you say to them, right, okay, I'm moving out now, you know, I'll give you the house on Wednesday, can you transfer the money? Then they say, oh, no, I've changed my mind. Well, you can't change your mind. Once ijab and kabul is done, there's no need for signatures, there's no need for paperwork. That's just there for British legal purpose, or whichever country we're in, so that legally we have something there that if we take it to court, then that can become binding. Because if we take it to court in a Western court setting, then it's one person's word against the other. Hence, the legal system in the UK, let's take UK for instance, has gone to a state where everything needs to be in writing, that nothing is real until it has been contractually agreed, until there is a signature. Then it becomes contract binding. Okay, Jazakumullah khair for that. Just again to remind people, the number to call is 01274 214 299, and the email is q&a@hikra.tv, and somebody has phoned on our number. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear caller.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Respected Sheikh, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Just thought I'd take a quick sip of coffee whilst you just come on. So you just caught me midway. Alhamdulillah, very well. Jazakumullah khair for asking.
I think I'm going to join you. MashaAllah.
It's a good thing to do. It keeps you revitalized.
It does, definitely. And MashaAllah, I like the way, MashaAllah, you present the show and answering the brothers and sisters' questions. It actually is very friendly in the way you do it. MashaAllah, it's kind of like just something that comes to my mind as you were discussing hijab and Kabul regarding a contract. I was just wondering, is that also, I mean, these terms, you've mentioned them today, Kabul we always hear about, but these terms, hijab and Kabul, are they also applicable for like nikah and khula?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll pick that up in more detail after your call. Have you any other question as well?
That's it.
Fantastic. Barakallahu feek. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi, my dear brother. He's absolutely spot on, is our brother, because every contract, there is hijab and Kabul. Every contract. And nikah is a contract. And I think this is very important. I'm glad my dear brother has raised this point, because we get a bit romanticized, you know, with nikah, and we kind of just turn it into a little Bollywood movie, and we kind of get all lovey-dovey and think, oh, mashallah, you know, two people getting married, isn't that sweet, blah-de-blah, and all the rest of it, which I'm sure it is. And obviously I'm a bloke, so I'm going to speak like a bloke, and I'm sure the women and sisters are listening and saying, oh, God, you know, this man hasn't got a caring and a romantic bone in his body. I'm sure my wife will disagree. But the point is that in reality, when you strip away all the excitement and all the fun and everything, in reality, that's what it is. It is two people, a man and a woman, making a contract. And because we don't give enough time to this, we then don't understand that what have they obliged themselves to do? Nobody tells the woman, the girl, I know we always use the word girl, but she's a woman. Nobody tells the woman that, you know, when you accept this nikah, what this contract obligates you. What's going to be obligatory upon you when you sign this contract? And again, I use the word sign metaphorically because you don't need to sign anything, as I've just explained. Similarly, they don't tell the chap that, brother, it's all nice and good, mashallah, you're getting married, but do you know what obligations are going to come upon you because of this contract? So nobody looks at the, you know, nikah contract. What is in there? Okay, because it's never written up, because Sharia is a very simple system. It's made for the professors and the geniuses, and it's made for the average guy who is works in a field, who's never been to school, who's have no formal education whatsoever. Because the Sharia Islam is for everybody. It's not an elitist religion. It's a religion for all. And we can all take out of it what we can bring to it, simple as. So in this way, because it's not written, but there's a contractual obligation. There's an obligation on the man. You know, looking after his wife, tending for her, even down to, physical, intercourse with her. He's contractually obliged. You know, in terms of food, clothing, can he strike her? Can he be abusive towards her? all these obligations there. And similarly for the woman, she's also got obligations upon her. That's why, because we don't know what these obligations are, we enter into a marriage. We've watched too many Bollywood movies, so we have these huge, unrealistic expectations from our husband, who's going to turn up and sing a song to us in the kitchen, and pirouettes and then throw flowers at us or something. Nah, too much Bollywood. Doesn't happen like that. Marriage is nothing like that whatsoever. And then when the bloke doesn't do that, which 99.9999999% of blokes don't do that, then the woman gets sad that, oh, he's not fulfilling his marriage obligations. But the marriage obligations are completely different. Similarly on the chap, he expects that, this woman is going to become like his mother. Now his mother, alhamdulillah, that's a mother. Allah bless all our mothers. She'll go out of her way to do this. No, the wife does not have the same obligation. Even the mother doesn't have the same obligations, because once the mother has raised the child to become a man, or once the mother has raised the child to become a woman, and remember, a man can become a man at the age of 14, 15, 16. We're not talking about the legal age in the UK. We're talking about bulugh. Once a person becomes baligh, he's a man now. The mother no longer needs to care for this person. She's grown him up. In fact, the last few years, after the age of 7, 8, it's really the father's responsibility now with these youngsters, the young girl and the young boy, to reach them into maturity, because now he's got to teach them about the kind of worldly affairs that supposedly he is more equipped to do. Whereas when it comes to the love and the tenderness and the mercy and the caring and all the things we need, that balance we need of love and toughness, we need that balance. The mother gives the love and the man is supposed to then give that toughness. As our brother said, ijab and kabul. Ijab is offer, kabul is acceptance. One of the two parties has to make ijab and the other party has to make kabul. In the nikah we say, kabul hai. Manzoor, ye nikah kabul hai, I accept. The Maulana, the Imam allow you to say yes. You take this, this Fatima of Abdullah as your wife, based on the mahar of £5,000, in front of the specific two witnesses, Abdul Rahman and Muhammad, as well as all the witnesses in this majma, in this congregation. It's a contract. You've got witnesses, you've got one person, and normally the woman is not, because this normally takes place in the masjid on a Friday usually, after Asr on Friday, or after Jummah on Friday. Best time for a nikah in a masjid. And so that many people witness it. It's not just, few people witness it. Many people witness it, so then everybody knows. So if, this brother is walking around with his wife, no one says, who was he walking around with? Who's she? They'll know, this is, Abdullah's daughter. Do you remember the nikah took place in Masjid Falah last week? You remember after Jummah? Oh, yeah. So it's clear to everybody that the two are married. It's done, it's halal. So yeah, ijab and kabul. Now we hear the kabul part, we don't necessarily hear the ijab part. So what should happen is the father should go ask his daughter, my dear daughter, and have two witnesses with him. I'm now going to go and marry you to this chap. And obviously that's not the first time she hears about, like, which chap? All this has happened. Meet him, to talk to him, to get an understanding of where this brother is going to go in this marriage, because she's making a life commitment. Actually, most of the work has been done behind the scenes by the mother and to make sure they're not just throwing their daughter away, they're making sure that the daughter has got a good place, that she's going to get looked after, like the way a father looks after his daughter. Alhamdulillah, all those good fathers are out there, and there's lots of good fathers that are out there that do everything for their children. No, don't spoil their children, don't get me wrong, but they do everything in terms of their rights and responsibilities, the children's rights and the father's responsibilities. Now, you know how well you've raised your daughter. Now you want somebody to look after your daughter like the way you looked after. Obviously, no one's going to look after their daughter like the way the father looked after his daughter. Ain't nobody replacing him. He's always going to be Mr. Number One. But at least this chap can try, and he can be Mr. Number Two, and he becomes the husband of your daughter. So you've done the background checks, your wife's done all the background checks, you're absolutely sure, you've done istikhara, you've made dua, you've done everything that can possibly be done for a mother and father to do, and then you rely on Allah. You put your tawakkul in Allah, say, Allah, whatever was humanly possible we've done. Now obviously we do not know the ghaib, we do not know the future, we leave it with you, and if any difficulty comes, we'll make dua to you, and we'll do as best as we can. So then he says, dear girl, dear, young lady, whatever his daughter's name is, obviously, we've already talked to you about Abdullah. Well, he wants to marry you. So are you happy for me to perform your nikah with Abdullah? Are you okay with that? And she will say, yes, I'm okay with that. So what she's done there is she's given permission to her father. So now he carries the ijab. So she's given permission to him. It normally works that way around. I'm always surprised why the ijab always comes from the woman. The ijab doesn't come from the man. But anyway, in nikah, it should be from whoever has prompted the nikah. And usually in our kind of culture, in our Islamic world, it's the boy's family. Again, we use the word boy. It's the man's family that goes to the girl's family, the woman's family, and they make the first offer, don't they? They come, or the mother comes usually, and she says, I'm looking for a young girl, and mashallah, your daughter is A, B, C, D, mashallah, this, that, and the other, whatever, and we're interested in your house and your daughter. And then the gupshup starts between the two families, and then it gets better and better. Then the men get involved, and then it develops until it gets to a point where the two meet, and they're happy, everything is good, alhamdulillah, and then it moves on and it gets done. So then once he's got that, he then walks to the masjid on the Friday, whichever day is going to be nikah, and he does the ijab. He does the offer. I offer the hand of my daughter. He's acting as a wakil. Because it's a male environment, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable for a woman to sit there in this masjid full of men. So she deputizes her father to act on her behalf, because we expect usually the father to ensure that he does the best for his daughter. So he will go and he will say, I am now offering the hand of my daughter. So the Imam Sahib will say, Teek, now we need somebody to accept the offer. And our young, handsome chap that's turned up is there with his father and his family. And he will say, so the Imam will read what I just read to you there, and then he will say, I accept her as my wife. It's better to use a full sentence, I accept her as my wife, because if he says, I accept, afterwards he can reject that and said, oh, I was saying I accept to the brother behind who's saying, are you going to buy doner meat tonight? And I said, I accept to him. I didn't say I accept her as my wife to you. So we need to make sure that there's no chance of subjectivity. There's no chance of changing, because his contract is a contractual law. So then he will say, I accept her as my wife. Once that's done, ijab kabul is done, khalas. Mahr is mentioned. In this case, even if mahr is not mentioned, it's not a problem. Okay, as the witnesses are there, the ijab and kabul has got done, it's done. It is better, it is sunnah to discuss the mahr prior to the nikah, finalize and says it in the nikah, and he accepts it on that mahr's terms with witnesses, because he then needs to give that mahr to his wife. Again, many men don't do that either. They get married and say, oh, you don't need the mahr now, you're living with me. No, of course she needs the mahr. It's her money. Okay, she's given access to you based on that mahr. How does she know what her future is going to be like in 2 months' time? How does she know whether you're going to be looking after her? God forbid, what if she gets divorced? So anyway, jazakumullah khair for that question. And khul'a is different, because in khul'a, the woman asks for the contract to be broken. She asks for the contract to be broken, and the husband breaks it by giving her divorce. That's khul'a. So she says, I don't want to live with you. You do my head in, so please break this contract. And he then says, fine, and he says, I give you divorce, and the contract breaks. So that's khul'a. A divorce is always from the bloke side. Anyway, jazakumullah khair for that question. We're running out of time. Thank you very much, my dear brother and sister, for making those calls. I look forward to our special show tomorrow. Please make sure you're here nice and early. A long shift, so make sure you got plenty of cups of coffee. See you then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.